Good evening, great Nigerian youths. Good evening, great Npower ambassadors. It gives me great pleasure to be in touch with you again after a little bit of a break. I know it's been 9 months. 9 months seem a long time. 9 months, it's such a long time that let me take this opportunity to welcome the Npower babies that have come in the last 9 months. Because 9 months is a full time for a full-time baby. Let me also congratulate some of you, Npower marriages, even our Ibadan leap year marriage, which I was privileged to be a part of. Let me congratulate several promotions amongst you, such as Uriye Benedict of Ilaje, Ondo State, who has exited into business, and he's doing quite well with his business. Very recently, he was part of the Nigerian delegation to France on an agric exhibition in France. Sipasi Olalekan of Ikorodu, Npower Lagos, who's just recently gained graduate admission into the Kansas University in the United States. Let me also congratulate some of you who have also just recently gained employment in the last few months. For the sake of some of you listening to me for the very first time on this medium, such as those of you who were beneficiaries of the Npower Creative, or those of you who were beneficiaries of the Npower Tech software program, let me use this opportunity to provide some useful background to the why and what we do. And let me give a bit of background. Some of you are veterans, you've heard me before, but for the sake of those who are new, I will provide a little bit of background. Human capital investment remains one of the most enduring legacies any government at any level can leave behind. From country to country, and indeed continent to continent, a major benchmark that's used to measure or recognize a country whose economy is headed in the right direction is its ability to develop a competitive and competent workforce. As is often said, to be globally competitive, you have to be globally competent. For us as a country, with recent United Nations population estimate of 200 million people by the year 2020, and faced with massive shortfall of white-collar jobs to match our growing youthful population, the diversification of job opportunities, developing youth skill competencies around technology and several industrial skills becomes a priority for Nigeria and our very blessed, creative young people. Recognizing the above, the federal government in the year 2015, under the capable hands of President Muhammadu Buhari, took the bold step to invest in the human capital through the National Social Investment Program, which targets systemic reduction of poverty, improvement of livelihood, and human capital development to spur economic growth across various segments of Nigeria's population. Npower, as one of such components of the NSIP, was therefore created as an emergency intervention for youths to acquire and develop lifelong skills needed to become solution providers in their communities and relevant players in the domestic and global markets. I've often defined Npower on this fora and several other fora as a learn, work, and exit into entrepreneurship or employability. In other words, it's an employability enhancement program or an entrepreneurship development program. By so doing, we all know, and the world knows, that we have a series of programs. The graduate programs that cuts across the NTeach, the NHealth, and NAgric, and some of you, very few of you in NTax has now discontinued, make up the 500,000 graduate volunteers that we have in the Npower network. In addition to that, over the last 3 years, we have been able to skill competently about 58,000 Nigerian youths, comprising of our skills training non-graduate program across the NBuild vocational, be it construction, automobile, and hospitality, the NTech hardware, the NTech software, and indeed NCreative, all focusing on different aspects of our economy. At this point, I'm now going to spend a few minutes to speak about the Npower process. And the reason I'm doing this, for those of you who are volunteers watching me, you know about this already, but I guess some of you need to be reminded of our process. And beyond the Npower volunteers, this live chat has become a platform by which a whole lot more Nigerians at large get to know about what we do, how we do, And I thought it's important that we establish some of these facts for proper record keeping. Npower, our processes are transparent, and indeed they have been very optimized. We have optimized our lean resources by technology, which has therefore enabled us to do so much with so little. As you know, your journey in the Npower program typically commences from application, from online application, and after your application you do your online test, and after your online test we run what is called a pre-selection. But before the pre-selection, we also verify some of the information, your personal information that you give to us, which comprises your BVN, your date of birth, and some other personal details. Once we verify and we realize that it checks, in other words, it's validated, we pass you through the same platform, the portal, to do your test. And after that, we come with what is called pre-selection. And there's every one of you in the program, be it the graduate and non-graduate program, are very aware that before you get into our program or before you become an active beneficiary, you actually undergo a process called physical verification. And this is a verification we do in support and active partnership of the National Orientation Agency, NOA, with their offices across Nigeria, and indeed their community mobilization officers across all local governments in Nigeria. We also do this in strong support with our state partners in terms of the focal persons that are in all the 36 states and indeed the FCT. What do we aim to do with the physical verification? It's to ensure that the people who apply are the people we select. So what do we verify? We verify your identity, we verify your age, because Npower is a program that is targeted for young people, young unemployed people between the ages of 18 to 35 at the time of application. So we verify that you have not exceeded that age at the time of application. We verify, more importantly, also that you are a resident in the community that you gave us. Because in Npower, we do not post you outside of your resident community. So we verify that you are a resident of that community by providing us relevant IDs at the place of physical, during your physical verification. The next thing, of course, if you're a graduate in the graduate program, we also verify your credentials to be sure that you are who you say that you are. There's no reason for you to be in a graduate program when you're not a graduate, when you also know that we have the non-graduate program that takes care of training and skills. So right after that, you are then onboarded. In onboarding, we invite you, each and every one of you, to come onto the portal and onboard yourself. We would have pre-invited you, and we ask you to confirm by onboarding yourself on the portal. The next thing you do right after that is that we send final list to the states, who then deploy you, and after the deployment, you all upload your deployment letter onto the portal. Now, in uploading your deployment letter onto the portal, before you become final enrolled, when you get the verified check mark, you all will agree that we do what is called confirmation of your primary place of assignment, because the states have also sent us back a list of deployment. We'll confirm based on the deployment list and the letter you uploaded. So if Afolabi was deployed to Gwarimpa Primary School, for example, as an teacher assistant, I would confirm that the letter Afolabi uploaded reads Gwarimpa Primary School. So where that is the situation, you get verified and you become you become fully enrolled. Where that is not the case, we reject your deployment letter and ask you to go regularize. And I'm happy that for every one of you that is listening to me, that is a verified, valid member of the Graduate Npower program, we really do not have those issues anymore, because you have all scaled through that. Now, of course, the moment you get into the program, you know the next thing is that you begin to work. And we say to you that, one, you want to continue to learn, and in learning, we've always put your learning materials on the Npower portal, and we ask you to continue to learn. But the bottom line is, we expect you to continue to learn and then continue to work. To go to resume at your place of permanent assignment and to do the work. And once you work, then you should earn your pay. So I will speak to payment in the next few minutes. But just to digress, for our non-graduate beneficiaries, same process, application is same, pre-selection is same. You run physical verification, but after physical verification, most of you do your physical verification at your places of training. So we would have run a physical verification for some of you at your local government, but most of you at your places of training. And once again you scale through that, you are deployed to your training center, where you do undertake your various in-center training for 3 months, after which you then engage on your apprenticeship with employers across the country. So that's the story of those in the M-Build, the N-Tech, hardware, software, and indeed the N-Creative. So payment, and that's a big issue, because I did ask that you give us your thoughts and what are the most burning issues on your mind, and payment obviously carry the floor. So I'll spend some time on payment. The first thing I need to let you understand about payment, our payment process is guided by 2 key parameters. One is the elimination of any intermediary or middleman, and you would all attest that we have never paid anyone in the Npower program, be it graduate or non-graduate, through anybody. We pay you directly. Now, the second strong parameter that underpins our payment process is that we do everything to ensure we're extremely careful about identity, to safeguard each and every one of you against identity theft. Now, what do I mean? That's the only reason why when we cut off payment process in the middle of every month, because the payment process goes through a bit of administrative procedures, which I will explain in a few seconds. When we cut off the payment process, before you get paid, there is a validation that happens with the Nigerian Interbank Settlement Scheme, NIBS, because they are the ones that after all approvals, when we cut off payment process from the Npower office, what do we do by cutting off? On the day of cutoff, we take exceptions to payroll that I will speak to in another topic. Once we take exceptions to payroll and we progress it, it goes on to the Honorable Minister. Before, it used to be the Honorable Minister of the Budget and National Planning. As you know, now it's the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management, and Social Development, since you're all aware of the transition of this program to the new ministry. So from there, from our own desk, it moves on to the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry. From his our own desk, it moves on to the Director of Finance, and then it moves on to the Deputy Director, and then all the checks and balances are done at the Ministry, which takes some time, quite honestly, before the funds are then moved from the Treasury single account, which is hosted by CBN or in CBN of the Ministry, to the Treasury single account of NIBS, which is a settlement scheme, an arm of the CBN that you're all familiar with. It moves on to, because if you have a BVN, you must be familiar with NIBS. So it moves on from the TSA to the TSA, and then they run the validation to ensure again that Afolabi, his BVN, his date of birth, all his information that is provided on our payroll matches the information that is provided on the BVN platform. Once that matches, you are called validated for payment and you are paid. So money is released to your beneficiary banks, to them for onward credit to your account. So it's that process, and it's only when there is any issue, either at the validation, maybe because something has changed within your records, or your bank has any issue. In other words, that's the only time you really never get paid. But more often than not, the greater majority of you do get paid through that process. But once there is any snag in the process, the next thing what happens is the funds are recouped back from the banks to NIBS, and then NIBS back again to the ministry's TSA. So you will therefore see, because in the I've read a lot of all your comments, particularly when we experience payment delays, and you all say all sorts. You say, oh, it looks like they've some person in the Npower system has gone to invest our money, has gone to put our money in fixed deposit, does not want to pay us, and all sorts of stories and imaginations that you come up with. Well, the reality and the truth is this: nobody sees the physical money. These are all electronic payments that move electronically from one stage to another stage until it hits your account, and you get that credit alert, or what you like to call alert on the rain. Okay, now what then happens for those of you a few of you many times, from payroll cycle to payroll cycle, who do not get paid? You do not get paid for perhaps one of two reasons. One, like I explained earlier, if you fail validation, you don't get paid. What then do we do? From the payment report that we get from NIBS back to us through the ministry, accounting officer ministry, we reach you, we contact you, we immediately pass it on to our support network, and they contact you through our various channels, be it email, phone call, SMS, whatever it is, to ask you to go regularize yourself with your bank, or go update your BVN, or whatever the issue is. And you would all agree that for as many of you that have had those challenges in the course of your journey with us in Npower, once you regularize, we again send you back for payment, and once you get paid, we then process you for your legitimate backlogs. Now that's where the word backlogs come from. It's important to note that whilst there is no one who has any intention to deny any one of his or her valid earnings, but if we did not take the added step of guarding against identity theft, you will not even have the benefit of a backlog. And it's simply because no money is lost within the process. Once money does not reach the final beneficiary, it returns back in a loop, in a reverse loop to the process. And that's the only reason why we can process you for backlogs, and a lot of you are all testaments to the fact that you have all received your backlogs. I've taken time to explain this because there have been many insinuations around ghost workers in Npower. Now again, I reiterate, there is no ghost worker in Npower. There cannot even be a ghost worker in Npower, because first and foremost, a ghost is to say you do not exist. And so there's no way, having conducted a physical verification and confirming those who come into the program, for them now not to exist. Now, what is likely, I believe the word ghost worker that has been loosely used, albeit erroneously, refers to some of our volunteers. And I dare say you are in the minority. Some of our volunteers who do not go to work sometimes, or who do abscond, from your place of primary assignment. Now, we do get reports, and when we get reports, such reports, we immediately place you on payment hold. So the reality, therefore, is that if you do not get paid, it's either you failed payment validation, and we would inform you. If you are not informed of a payment validation failure, from the end of trying to pay you, then the next possible alternative is that you are on temporary suspension, which is payment hold. I will speak a little more on that in my next topic. But before I move away from payment, let me take this opportunity to first and foremost apologize on behalf of the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian, and indeed all the Npower stakeholders and the social investment stakeholders, for the irregular payment cycle that you've experienced. You would again all attest to the fact that for the benefit of this, for the benefit of Nigeria, for the benefit of you all, the beneficiaries, and the many more that would come into the program, Mr. President, in his wisdom, thought it wise to institutionalize what hitherto had been an intervention program. And this institutionalization led to the creation of a new ministry, which is the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management, and Social Development. Now, by the fact that it's a new ministry, it tells you clearly that what then that means that ministry never existed. So if it never existed, it never had a permanent secretary. He never had directors. He never had any personnel to carry out his activities. The first of such to be appointed is the Honorable Minister. But again, the clarity of this transition did not happen until October 1 during Mr. President's October 1 speech to the nation. So, having said that, and as the Honorable Minister herself has said in quite a few forums, explaining the fact that she needed to understand the process, she needed to be briefed, which we've done as a program and we continue to do as a program. So that's the reason for a bit of the hiccups. I have the assurances of the new ministry, the Ministry of Humanitarian, now that the worst days are behind us. I am aware that the January stipend, unfortunately, though late, but it's been paid for the graduates. I am aware. I'm also aware that your February stipends for the graduate is already also in advanced stage. I have assurances that before the end of this week, you should get that, and also the non-graduates as well, I'm sure by next week. So they're catching up on these backlogs and the paperwork, and both the minister and the permanent secretary and all the directors are putting in a lot of late hours to ensure that we can catch up and put these worst days behind us. Now, I need to speak a little bit again about another critical component of the Npower program. I often say to you, and I've said it many times, that in the Npower program, you learn, you work, and you earn. Now, when you do not work, you're actually not earning the stipend, you are stealing the stipend. And do understand that this is not my funds, it's not Folabi's money, it's not the Honorable Minister's money, it is the Commonwealth of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for which you are a beneficiary. As such, enormous complaints we have received and continue to receive enormous complaints, even up until this evening, just a few minutes ago, from the third arm of government, the legislative. Just rounded up some meetings with them, and it's the same complaint that a lot of you no longer go to work. Now, let me assure you, and I've always said to you, that the head of your PPA. So for those of you in public primary or secondary schools, that head teacher or that principal, for those of you in health centers, your matron or your health senior officer, they have the responsibility to monitor, to guide, to teach, to coach, and to educate you. Because after all, Npower is all about extended learning, employability enhancement. Now, and this, you will soon understand the importance of this as I go into some other topics which are more germane to you, things around permanence, exit, and all of that. I'll speak a bit about that, but understand that how can you ever imagine that you would be given a permanent slot wherein whilst you are an Npower volunteer, you were not committed? I don't know how that can be. Again, I am of a strong opinion that this is a few minority of you. However, the calls and the claims are growing, and they are they are growing in my ears. And I again still want to align with you that is not the majority of you, it is again the minority of you. But let me assure you that we have multi-layer integrated monitoring within the NSIP framework. I have said to you first and foremost that the head of your PPA is your principal monitor, and so they have been empowered to send us reports of those of you who fail to show to work without necessary approvals. For example, when I started my chat tonight with you, I did congratulate those of you who have welcomed Npower babies. So, of course, there will be no penalty for any of you as a female who's had to leave work for 3 months because of maternity. Once it's well documented, you cannot be penalized. There will no penalty for any one of you who, for reason of ill health, have had to leave work, whether you had to go for surgery or whatever it is. There can't be no penalty for that. But there will sure be penalty for any and every one of you who just believe that you can abscond at any point in time that you like, simply because you have the erroneous mindset that nobody sees me, they can't control me, after all they do not pay me. Well, I have some news for you. For about 5,781 of you who we have forcefully exited out of the program because of disciplinary issues like this, perhaps you will begin to believe that yes, the states do have authority over you. And so once we receive a report of abscondment from PPA, I'm explaining this not necessarily for you, the volunteer, because you know the rules. You are fully abreast of the terms and conditions of being an Npower volunteer. But I'm making this explanation for the general stakeholders, including every Nigerian who many times hear your claims and sometimes your pain, amplify it and send it to us as feedbacks. We do receive reports. And when we receive reports, what we do is to place you on what is known as a temporary suspension, which you would generally know as payment hold. Now, payment hold is for 45 days, meaning, like I said earlier, if all of a sudden today is end of February or tomorrow is end of March and everyone is paid, you are not paid, give us a few days, because if the reason you are not paid is as a result of failed payment validation, you will hear from us, and typically you get to hear from us within a few days once we receive payment reports from the NIPS through the ministry. But when you don't hear from us, you should immediately know. And for those of you who did not go to work, you should know that the reason is because someone has reported you. But then you have a grace period of 45 days, for which some of you have utilized. When you suddenly then realize that, finally, yes, there is a monitor that actually sees me. President may be in Abuja, but he has his eyes and his legs in every of your community and every of your local government. You then have the opportunity that if you do amend your ways, you will have the opportunity to go back to your PPA, to resume, to beg for clemency, and your head of PPA issues what is known as your attestation letter of good behavior. And once that is issued to you, you know what to do. You either send it to us by email, you all know your email, or you send it to us by uploading it on your portal, or you send it even to us through your focal person or through your NOA desk officer. Once we get it, we know what we immediately do is we reinstate you. But of course, you know that you are not entitled to any backlogs for the period of suspension. But what happens in most times with most of you is, again, you allow the 45 days, and the 45 business days, that's about 2 months, sometimes even 2.5 months, to elapse before you then start running back to your PPA to now say, please, what can we do? And you know the rule. So clearly, once we do receive some reinstatements, and we revert back to say the time is expired, the grace period is expired, and so because immediately after 45 business days, without any effort from me or any of my team, it is a system automation. You are immediately automated into a permanent exit, and that's exited, and that's the story of about 5,781 of you. For which some of you, rather than being remorseful, a few of you now begin to want to stoke unnecessary tension, at your various communities. I would want to advise you that you really should desist from this, because I have here in front of me, for example, some of you from the state of Osun who were reported and who we exited because there was no reinstatement within the 45 business day window. A few of you across the fellow Dunwaye that day, Ede North, Ede South, Ife Central, Irewole local government, a few of you across like that. But I want to enjoin you that if you do have legitimate reasons If you know that you were, it was maybe a wrongful suspension, maybe because you came to school but the head teacher didn't see you, or you closed early. Once you know you have a genuine case, let me remind you of all the avenues by which you can seek for redress. We are here to serve you. So you have multiple avenues. One is to proceed to the head of your institution. 2 is to send us a mail. 3 is to approach your state focal person. 4 is approach us through any of our social media channels. And once we get your report, we would always ask you to send us details. And once we get details, we would obviously act on it. And that's why I know a few of you that have genuine reasons have been reinstated as a result of this policy. But let me advise those of you who think that you can hold the system to ransom to desist from stoking unnecessary tension in this regard. Please utilize all available redress mechanisms for genuine reasons. Now, resignation is always an open platform. Now, of course, a few of you some of you among those exited clearly did not go to work. Some of you did not show up. We had an article on Business Day, an investigative journalism piece that gave us names of some of you who did not go to work. And of course, we also continue to get these reports from our states and from some of our independent monitors and even third-party civil society organizations. So rather than you waiting for us to exit you, which is disciplinary, because again, remember, whatever you do in Npower has a record, and I dare say has a lasting record. If you left the program through exited, especially for the 5,917 of you, I think, that I spoke about, 5,781 of you. Now, it is on your record permanently that you were exited. It's not the same as voluntary resignation. If I'm to give any attestation on your behalf, not necessarily today, maybe even tomorrow or anytime in future, once you're exited, it means you was a disciplinary action and you cannot get a positive recommendation. But once you left the program through a voluntary resignation, then clearly we celebrate you, because it means that you are truthful to yourself, you are truthful to your country, and you are creating opportunities for other Nigerians like you to benefit from this program. Let me speak again a little about resignation, because we've also gotten a few feedbacks around this alleged or unwillful resignation. And the first point to say to that is completely far from the truth. There can be no truth close to that. The request to resign from the program is very simple. You write a signed resignation letter and submit to us via email or through your focal person or the NOA desk officer. As a matter of fact, because some of you complain that the day you resign and before the letter sometimes gets to us through any of these channels, which results sometimes in some of you attempting to refund funds because you may have resigned today, but if you resign, for example, February 16, and because I've cut off payroll for February on February 15, you will still be in payroll and you then get paid for February. Some of you honest Nigerians request to say, I want to give the money back because I did not earn this money. And we always celebrate those of you who come back to us for that. Because of that, we realize that there can be a time difference lag between when you actually issue the letter to your PP and when sometimes it gets to your state local government before it gets to us by email. We implemented an improvement which is to enable you to be able to resign from the comfort of your home or office through your portal. And that was the portal resignation. But guess what? This is an improvement that is supposed to aid and improve your experience in Npower. But what then do I get? That's the only platform, that's the only reason by which we are getting these complaints now of alleged or unwilling resignation. It cannot be true, because we have investigated a lot of you. that have come back to us with these allegations. And what we have found is you then come to us after you have first alleged wrongfully. You then come back and say, yes, well, it was my boyfriend, that went to exit me on the portal because we fought. He was the one that helped me to apply, or vice versa, it was my girlfriend, or he was my ex-spouse because we fought, or he was some crook in the cyber cafe that helped me to apply. Now, honestly, let me take a few seconds to advise you as a big brother to you all my young ones. What are you talking about? This is your portal, is your personal information. It's a personal, sensitive platform. Nobody, no third party, no matter how close you may be to him or her, should have access to your portal login details. No, let me ask you for a minute, and perhaps some of you should attempt to answer me through the platform. If you were to give your ATM, or someone were to take your ATM, or your boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, whatever, take your ATM, knows your PIN, and go to withdraw your money from your account, are you going to go to your bank and put the blame on your bank when there is valid proof that it was not as though the person broke into your password? The person entered the right password and money came out. So the same way, you cannot go and blame the bank for someone who used your right PIN number to access your card. It's the same way, really, you cannot blame the Npower office if someone gains access, albeit illegitimate access, to your personal details and goes online to resign you. Now, what do you then do? You then take advantage. Because of this feedbacks, what did we begin to do? We then stopped. Once we get your resignation request, we don't process immediately, despite the fact that even your resignation process is multi-stepped. When you say you want to resign, the next thing that pops up is the question about, okay, why do you want to resign? When you give us an answer for why you want to resign through a drop-down menu, we ask you again, are you sure you want to resign? We ask you again, are you sure? Because once you resign, you cannot come back. We ask you. So you go through like a 3-step level before you hit the final yes. And it comes to what is now known as a pending resignation request to us in the back end. Now, the only reason it became a pending resignation request was what enabled us to investigate these allegations and found them to be false. Very recently, I have a case of an Npower volunteer in Ondo who actually went ahead after you had gone. The reason you gave us on your portal was that you have found a job, and so you even thanked Npower for the opportunity given to you to serve. You then had the effrontery to make a false allegation to your focal person, who then investigated at your PPA, and the PPA says, oh yes, this person has been coming to work, only for us to pull the back end and show the focal person all of these details. It was only at that time you then came to say, well, it was actually true. The only reason was that the job didn't quite work out, so that's why I was seeking to get back into the program. Now, it would have at least been noble for you to have told the truth and consideration be given to you, if to reinstate you, than to allege falsehood. And that volunteer obviously lost his or her slot, because you cannot be the proud Npower ambassador that Mr. President is investing in, and you also perpetrate falsehood. It just cannot work. And that's the situation with a lot of you. So what have we done? We now, once we receive a resignation request, it goes into what is known as pending resignation. And once we try to reach you, either by phone calls, sometimes by email, but through the our situation room, the support network, we reach you and to confirm if truly it was you and if truly that resignation request is genuine. And it's only at that point that we then confirm or approve your resignation. As we speak today, we have a total of 11,238 resignation requests across the 2 batches. 8,709 of you have been approved because you have gone through the whole process and you have confirmed to us that yes. And 2,529 of you are still pending. The reason why most of you are pending is because we couldn't reach you on the mobile phone that we have for you on your portal. So even for this 2,529 right now, I've directed our team, and since last week we have circulated this list by states and local government to your state focal persons and the NOA's state directors to reach you either through the PPA directly to confirm, and once we collect these confirmations, we'll either approve for those who say yes it is so, and we would reinstate those who say that it was as a result of this illegal entry. So please let me also on this note appeal to you. You know, I can only and would always continue to appeal to you because you're my brothers and you're my sisters. I am also aware that some of you have secured other jobs. Hence, you are not able to show up at your PPA, your place of primary assignment. But rather than take the noble and part of integrity, you believe that nobody sees you. Hence, you have refused to resign. Some of you even choose to connive with some unscrupulous officials at your PPA to do what you call sorting. Let me advise you. I said to you a few minutes ago that it is not my personal funds. It is not the personal funds of any one of us. It is our collective commonwealth. And there are extant rules, regulations, laws of the land that guide the commonwealth of a people. Please, if you are in this category, especially since the complaints of you not going to work is growing, go and resign honorably. Perhaps, if you are not aware, the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs has recently launched a whistleblower partnership with the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, ICPC. These institutions of government and indeed the Department of State Service, DSS, these institutions of government will come after you. So I appeal to you, if you know that you have other things doing, for the love, for first and foremost, for the sake of integrity, and for the love of your fellow brothers and sisters who could enjoy this opportunity, please go and resign on your portal. If you don't want to, if you are not assured of that, or you don't have a device to say you have a portal or what have you, just write your resignation letter, send it to us by email, and we will treat. The next point that I would speak to before I attempt to run through some of your questions is devices. Devices, the Npower devices, the tablet is critical to your lifelong learning and even your entrepreneurship opportunities. The story of Benedict that I mentioned earlier, of Ilaje local government in Ondo State, his story is from the device. He was from the device, he learned the entrepreneurship opportunities that has resulted in who he is and what he's doing today. Same is the story of one of you in Katsina who also actually now runs a lot of e-learning courses now because of this device. So let's understand that when we started this program and we embraced technology early on, is because we knew that technology was not only an important leverage that we need for young people and indeed for our country, but we also realized that technology was the one enabler that could enable us to do so much with so little resources. Revenues are always a challenge for us as a country. Minister has taken this upon herself and indeed the expanded team. So we are working on it, and in no distant time they would notify, the ministry will notify of the steps taken in that direction. But you can almost take it to the bank that the president who is your president and our president is a man of integrity. He will not change the rules in the middle of the game. I will then move on to the big elephant in the room which is around the Npower transition, Npower exit, or permanence. I think the first thing to say about permanence is, what I find with a lot of us and maybe our society today is we tend to want to struggle with the basic truth, and sometimes we believe that if we speak the fact or what if we speak the fact, even if it's not true or practicable for so long, it will become a reality. Well, maybe it works for some of you, but it's not today, and it's not now. Since the beginning of the program, and I've had opportunities to interface with each and every one of you. One of the things I've always told you very critically is the clamor for permanence by the federal government is impracticable. It's impracticable, almost next to impossibility. Because, and I've said this to you before, for a few reasons. One, the total number of the civil service of the federal government is less than 100,000. And the last count, I think about 88,000. You are 500,000. Now, by the time you extend it even into public service, beyond civil service, from public service commissions, I don't have exact number for that. But again, I don't imagine that would again exceed another 100,000. So how practicable is it that the federal government will then say, okay, these 500,000, put them in some permanence, and then, so what happens? So your other brothers and sisters who have just recently left school, who also need a lifeline like you needed a lifeline, so what happens? So it's an impracticable ask. And the second reason I've always tried to say this to you is also because in prior sessions I've taken you through what I call Government 101. The Federal Republic of Nigeria, it's a federation. It's a federation that runs on 3 tiers of government. The federal, which you're all beneficiaries of, the state, which is the state you are in, and the local government. So there is no federal child, really, because every one of us is a member of a local government within a state in the context of the federal government. Now, the PPAs, the place of primary assignment that you all are serving, they are all owned by states or local government, whether it's the primary health centers or the public primary school or the public secondary school. So how then will the federal government, put you in the payroll of a state that it doesn't control? It's not practicable. Absolutely not practicable. So I have often explained to you, and that's the whole essence of when a few months ago, specifically November 2018, I spoke to you about enhancement, an enhancement program. And in enhancement, one of the first things I said to you is that you will continue to learn, continue to work, and you continue to earn. Now, and I'm not aware that even if there may have been a few delays in stipends, nobody has stopped paying you your stipends. So it means that you have continued to earn. And that's also simply because there has been clarion calls that have been made to you, because we do hear you. Mr. Vice President made clarion calls to you sometime last year. We will not put you back on the street. We're working with all our collaborators, the governors, and through them, the local government chairman, to see how we can create what is a robust enhancement package. So let me see. I will go to some of your questions, which I have read, and indeed I did see one, and I think it's a good time to read the question verbatim. And it says, why should the Npower NTEACH beneficiaries be exited from schools that do not have teachers? Very valid question. Very, very valid question. But then guess what? Who owns the school? That school you're talking about is owned by a state government somewhere, because you didn't tell us your name or where the question came from. So the first thing I would then want to say is this. There's a strong difference between a looter, entitlement mentality, and advocacy. They are not the same thing at all. Advocacy is a positive engagement of stakeholders for valid reasons. You have a valid point. Just using the case of the NTeach, most of you who serve in a lot of our public primary schools, we do know that a lot of these schools, aside from the head teacher and maybe assistant head teacher and maybe a few permanent teachers, a lot of you are the ones manning the classrooms and in support sometimes for some of you who have NYSC NYSC corpers also there. So we know the reality. But then you have to advocate. You have to advocate right. You have to advocate appropriately. You don't advocate through a protest to Mr. President or the Honorable Minister or the Special Advisor, Mrs. Ways, or to me, or you don't. That's not the way to go. The best way to go is to advocate positively with your legislators at the grassroots and indeed your state. I use a case in point. There are new governors, new governance in place. Advocacy is a positive engagement with stakeholders. Now, the valid question you've raised, state governors, state governments, some are in the process of making recruitments into their public institutions. When the announcements come, you don't have an entitlement right to think because you are Npower, it should be automatic. There's nothing, and I've always assured you since the beginning of this program that your coming into the program was not automatic. There was no automatic engagement into the program. You had to go through a selection process which was competitive. So therefore, there is nothing in life that is automatic. Everything needs to run through a process. What am I saying? Engage positively through your state actors, particularly your grassroots legislators, House of Assembly, federal legislators, state governors. When you know that a recruitment process is going on, apply like everyone else. You would always have an edge because in your CV that you would have used for applying, you would have stated there that you are an Npower volunteer in so place and you are volunteered for 2 years, for 3 years, for 2.5 years, for 1 year, for whatever it is, and you state specifically what is being your role. So you would always have an advantage. In any case, we continue the conversation with state governors to recognize you. The Vice President, as you know, chairs the National Economic Council. The Honorable Minister, the new Honorable Minister, is also making his engagement with state governors as you follow through on our social media. And I'm sure we will begin to see more positive results.
This is Npower Live Chat.
But aside from that, let me also encourage you to toe the path of personal development. I know that I'm speaking to the converted because a lot of you are doing that already. I celebrate those of you who have formed the cooperative, the agro cooperative in Kwara. I celebrate the same, those of you who have done it in Oyo and many other places where you have formed cooperatives and you're actually growing your businesses or what you call your side hustle. So yes, your personal development is key, but beyond government jobs, expand your network. All of you should get into LinkedIn. There's no reason why any of you should not have a LinkedIn account. Upload your profile on LinkedIn. Upload your status as Npower on LinkedIn. And in fact, perhaps I would also encourage our communication team to also open a LinkedIn page so that you can give verification and veracity to you when you upload yourself as an Npower volunteer. Because the LinkedIn service right now is gone beyond just paid jobs. On LinkedIn now, you also have networking opportunities, even for other freelance opportunities, other collaboration. The Honorable Minister of Finance and even the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian also say a few times that we're also working on a youth Jeep loan that would also facilitate for some of you, for most of you to get in. We're hopeful that our conversations with the state government will begin to yield increase and will begin to yield results. So these are basically the tracks. But then I know that I'm speaking to the converted. Because like I said to you, a lot of you already have other things doing. So you all just want to get this sense of entitlement and just think you can continue to earn the pay, thinking it's money for the boys. Please, it's not money for the boys. If you know you already you are gainfully employed somewhere, whether with local government or whoever it is, please go and resign. And for those of you who are already entrepreneurial driven, access some of these opportunities. Reach us if you have challenges. We are all there to serve you. We are there through our multi-channels, but again, a more coordinated effort through the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Ministry of Finance, CBN Governor will be announced once we have final details. But I would hope that before we even do that, a lot of you have taken on some of these opportunities. Let me say very quickly that for the non-graduates, especially, I had a question that some of you are wondering, what's your own exit? Your exit was already inbuilt at the beginning. You had your exit tools already. There's none of you in a non-graduate program that did not get an exit tool, be it a laptop, be it a tool repair kit for those of you in hardware, be it your tool kit for carpentry, masonry, whatever. So you have your exit already, and we also provided you access to master assistants, access to industry players within your 9 months apprenticeship. We have success stories of some of you that have been now fully engaged by employers that provided the apprenticeship. So for those of you who still are wondering what is exit for non-graduate, your exit was given to you from the very beginning, and that is the exit tool. My second to last point, please disregard any and continued rumors around the portal is now open for new batch. It is not open. We cannot open it until we succeed in exiting those of you who are in the program. So all hands are on deck to ensure that all that you have earned, all that you have gained, all that you continue to learn and gain through the program, and all the support that we'll provide will enable you to exit successfully. I'm aware that this SANEF one that I shared with you, the shared agency network, if you latch onto it, you have there's a profitability of at the very least 150% of what you earn now as monthly commissions. You know what mobile agent is? Some of you have it in your community. If you latch onto this SANEF network, you have the opportunity of earning no less than at least 45,000. Every month. And some of you don't even need to be there yourself, because your wife, your spouse, somebody could run it while you are also doing some other hustles. Feel free to ask us questions. Feel free to require of us whatever support you require, and then we will work with you actively. And this is just being proactive ahead of when proper formal announcements will be made. So I've said to you, yes, disregard any fake news or a new batch. Always rely on our verified channels. I'm not going to be responding to any and every fake news. Once any news is not on our verified channel, then be sure that it is not from us. Let me also remind you that there are people out there that are all looking to how to defraud you in terms of saying, pay me money, I'll get you Npower slots. The question you should ask yourself, did you pay to get into the program? So why should anybody be asking someone somewhere down the line to pay? So please remember that you have yourself to blame if you fall guilty of that. There was a question that now that we've gotten our general stipend, is it safe to say that we'll start receiving our salaries like we used to? Well, I've explained to you that I have assurances from the new ministry that the worst days are behind us. So I'm hopeful that the answer to that will be yes. Well, Mr. Falabi made a statement that the permanence of beneficiaries is tied to their permanent voters card. Can he explain what he meant by that statement? Well, this was during the elections and the campaigns when I said to you that when you say permanence is in your hands, and I said that permanence is by your PVC. Well, the reason I can still be continuing this conversation with you and also exploring and sharing with you all the multiple options that you can tap into is because you listen to me and use your PVC to re-elect Mr. President and his vice. And I've thanked you, and they have all thanked you since then. I thanked all Nigerians, even those who did not vote for them. So that's what I meant by that. Permanence is in your hand. But beyond the PVC, I've also shared with you now how even by your conduct, permanence is in your hands. I've also shared with you by your personal development goals, permanence is in your hands. And of course, by your right positive advocacy with your stakeholders from the grassroots up, Permanence is in your hands. Question around why a beneficiary has been terminated from the program unwillfully, I've answered that. So why are some state governors or state governments recruiting teachers outside of Npower? Like, let me use the case study of the Deputy Governor of Lagos State. Did you apply? So again, you don't have automatic. There's nothing automatic in life. Even your bet was not automatic. You know, I mean, those of you who did biology, multiple millions of sperm. So please, there's nothing automatic in life. Can an Npower beneficiary apply for another federal government empowerment program? Well, I've just mentioned to you that we're actually the ministry and all the actors are working to see how we can create a youth jeep loan, just like the honorable minister said. But aside from that, we have just mentioned to you a BOI, CBN, and all the other opportunities. So yes, and like I said, always be proud to mention in your application process that you are an Npower volunteer. This government promised change and next level in job creation. What about the 1 million jobs that this government promised to provide to graduates annually? Well, it is incremental. Our promise first and foremost is that it's an incremental thing. You are 500, you are close to 560,000 now, 500,000 graduate, about 58,000 non-graduate. So the talk about 1 million is incremental. But remember, again, it's an APC party promise. So even the APC states, they all contribute to this promise. Remember what I said, you are all in a local government within a state, in a federal entity. So yes, we would bring in more people to continue to expand the program, and you all will join the alumni. I'm sure you'll be happy to join Npower alumni, just like a few of your colleagues, Sipasi, Benedict, and a few others, Daniel, who's in CBN in Benin. I mean, you have an Npower volunteers in CBN. So those of you who may have challenges about soft loan, how to, not that he can assist you, he may be able to educate you on how to do your application. So use your network. I'm sure you'll all be proud to be a part of the Npower alumni network. What was the federal government's plan to draft interested Npower beneficiaries to community policing? I spoke about that already. So finally, the question, I like this question, and I wonder if it was the beneficiary that asked me this question. I think not. It says, since the inception, and that's the reason why I went broadly in addressing this chat. It says, since the inception of this program, what impact has been recorded so far in lifting Nigerians out of poverty? Well, I'm very convinced it's not an Npower volunteer that asked me that question. So what I would therefore say is that the Npower volunteer should assist me in answering this question. Perhaps the impact first is it's in multiple ways and several ripple effects. One of it is that you can imagine the quantum of investment that has been made into this program each month since August 2018. We have been investing no less than 15 billion as stipends, direct stipends to the beneficiaries. This is aside from multiples of 100 million for the non-graduates as well, who also get a bit of stipends. This is also aside from investment in toolkits. This is aside from investment in free domains and what have you, as you've also learned. Now, the beauty about this investment program is that it's not, yes, when you hear the quantum of the investment, 15 billion, it's huge. It is huge for a country that is also seeking to invest in infrastructure. It is huge. There's a lot you can do with 15 billion if you were diverted to infrastructure. But the importance, when I started, I reminded us that for you to be globally competitive as a country, you need to be globally competent. And we are a youthful country. Our demography is very youthful. So it's a very costly investment that Mr. President makes every month to ensure that this program runs, and even the entire social investment. And that's the reason why you must obviously take the issues of monitoring and all that I've said very seriously. However, the impact is such that every investment that we make trickles down to every community, because these 500,000 are spread across 774 local governments, thousands of places of primary assignment, be it schools, health, and agri farms, who are also impacting. Their role that's impacting onto the community women, community farmers, community men. So that's the impact. This impact is incredible, and I would say that I just want you to imagine it, whilst my beneficiaries also help me to respond by telling their own stories of how they've been impacted. Time will not allow me to expand more on that, but I would ask you to watch out, watch this space. We would release some impact reports soon enough. I think on this note, I have taken considerable amount of your time, but it's quite worth it. This has been the first in the last 9 months. So if I've taken 90 minutes, I haven't even taken 90 minutes. I'm on 80 minutes at the moment. So perhaps I should have planned 90 minutes to qualify for 9 months. So before I say good night, let me ask if there's any question that is any question that is germane to answering that I've not answered. I'm told that I've answered all the questions. So let me celebrate you, because indeed when I asked you to write your questions, you did write your questions, and you sent me at least no less than 52 questions, which is what necessitated all that we have shared with ourselves in the last 80 minutes. I thank you that each time we call on you, you continue to respond. I thank you most importantly for the relationship, the collaboration, the symbiotic relationship that exists between you as volunteers out there in the field and us here as your managers. Always remember that we are here to serve you. The support network is open 24/7, call, social media, whatever, to serve you. Sometimes when you ask questions and they are slow responding, is because they may not have the answer at the point in time. Also bear with us as the transition is going on with the ministry, but bear this in mind. The president has your best interest at heart, and that's the only reason why we would have thought about institutionalizing. And I'm sure the minister and the entire team would always continue to support you and to ensure that you be the best that you can. Till I join you again on this forum or on other forum, let me say good night. God bless you. Thank you.
Please share this video so all others bring their questions.